Hi, I'm Carl Schilling, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Advocacy Network. And I'm so glad to be here with you today to discuss the three keys to building a seven-figure practice. But before we get started on that, and before I tell you a little bit about myself, I did want to share with you the real commitment and the real reason for the Advocacy Network. Every year, over $250 billion is lost to all forms of financial victimization. So we feel very strongly in that area that anyone can become a victim. We see it every day. We see it numerous times. To date, we have saved our members over $6.5 million. Forgive me. So that's quite a bit. And we feel so strongly that there are a lot of reasons for this financial victimization, but mainly it comes from the fact that there is a great deal of financial illiteracy. So we work on a lot of financial literacy, which we'll show you. The other problem is people's own personal behaviors. They drive a bias themselves. They buy their own beliefs and values about money. And these things drive how they see all their financial decisions. And ultimately, sadly, almost all the time, the real perpetrator of any victimization is the victim themselves. So with that, let me get started, take my ugly mug off the screen. I just thought it would be good for you to see me first, okay? And then we will share this screen with you. We'll get rid of me and start taking a peek. Now, real quickly, so you get to feel my background and where I'm coming from. I have over 35 years experience in the financial services, resort, real estate, and the business and sales coaching industries. I've either worked directly or I've consulted for such notable companies as Northwestern Mutual, Prudential, Metropolitan Life, Lincoln Financial Services, Coldwell Banker, Century 21, Ginn Development Company, Playground, commonly known as IntraWest, Lennar Homes, Exit Realty, Remax, Merrill Lynch, Nightingale Conant, Tom Hopkins, Brian Tracy, and a list of numerous others. I was one of the initial certified trainers for the classic Earl Nightingale Lead the Field program, something of which I'm very proud. To this day, I still work with the financial concierges, you yourself that I'm talking to about being a financial concierge in that training program. I've developed an extensive network of investment banking, broker-dealers, and financial services contacts through many years of doing marketing advisory work with small micro-cap public entities. And in 2009, when I was very heavily involved in that, I raised over $23 million in capital for small micro-cap issuers. Presently, I still consult for both public entities as well as those seeking to go public. In 2003, I published The Fabulous Fortunes Through Failure, and I developed small workshops that promoted a fresh perspective on the concept of failure. Excuse me. In 2008, I was asked to be a participating co-author in The Power of the Platform. Other co-authors included Les Brown, Brian Tracy, Jack Canfield, Dr. Tony Alessandra, and a fairly impressive list of others. And most recently, I published You Might Be Getting Scammed, which is a platform piece for our advocacy network. So with that, I wanted to discuss with you today the three keys to a seven-figure financial services practice. And that is in creating a financial concierge relationship. So let's look at presently your scenario, your situation as an insurance professional or as a financial advisor. There's really three keys that you have to building your own services practice. And we want to talk to you today in specific terms about having an entrepreneurial platform, which really is your practice. So those three elements are prospecting, client retention becomes a very important factor, which we'll discuss, and also revenue generation and this concept of growth, versus just revenue and income. And ultimately, at the end of the day, the bottom line, which is profit. So these three areas are key to anybody building a financial services practice. I wanted to take a peek here at lead generation and whether that's a fact or a myth. Now, we've all had experience with this, and I'm sure many, many of you have had some very, very bad experiences where you've invested quite a bit of money and found out the hard way that not all lead generation people are equal. So I want to show you here on the banking and insurance financial services is all we want to pay attention to. So we see that top, and that's the first line in every one of these graphs. Okay, this first line is always banking and insurance financial services. So we see direct mail, quite an impact. Trade shows, not so much. Email marketing, just a little more impact than direct mail, but still partially two of the major factors. Telemarketing, right up there. Telemarketing's changed dramatically over the years in these previous decades due to the do not call list and other issues. Over here, we're going to come back on blogs, social media, SEO, and discuss that. So, and lastly, right down here, traditional advertising has some impact. And follow this other, which other I assume is referrals and things of that nature, key contacts, centers of influence, other things of that nature. But other is the predominant lead where the leads come from. Okay. Now, I want to come back and put your attention on blogs and social media. Most people would look at this in blogs and social media and look at it and say, well, it doesn't work. But I want to share with you a different concept and a different perception of that. This does not say it doesn't work. Think in terms of not many people doing it in our industry. And that, therefore, it's got a very little impact. So what it really is a magnificent opportunity. It's not a, it doesn't work. It's a, no one's doing it factor. So this gives us a great opportunity and something we're going to discuss today for thought leadership branding to become an authority and to also get out and reach through all the social media impacts. And we have a great deal of marketing that we've done now for seminars, workshops, and things of that nature using Facebook and Twitter and a lot of the social media areas, because you can get a great deal of data mining and really reach out to an audience specifically to you using Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and several of the others. So we'll discuss some of that, but right here, this is an easy way to differentiate yourself and a great opportunity on lead generation. So as far as prospecting goes, let's take a peek. The biggest problem is white noise. Okay, and due to white noise, people have found no unique value proposition. Everybody's out there yelling, screaming about the same stuff. There's no true differentiation. Come on, every block, there's insurance agents all over the place. So there's people who have passed the test and have a license, and these people tend to tout themselves as insurance agents, brokers, advisors, any number of things. So there's not much differentiation. It's almost always a transactional process. It's one transaction. In fact, many times, I'm not saying you, and I wouldn't accuse anybody here of this, but there's many, many insurance agents who basically make one sale, one transaction, and they never see that client again. I mean, think about it yourself. How many times have you walked into a household and found that a previous insurance agent been there and people haven't seen them in years? So obviously it makes your life a little easier. You make a sale, but then again, if you're doing the same thing, you're just another transaction. And this gives people, after a while, a pretty bad image and a pretty bad perception of the industry. It's totally non-relational. So, and it leads to exceptionally poor client retention. But let me give you an example of white noise and what I mean. Imagine you're standing at Yankee Stadium at home plate, and there's 50,000 screaming people in the stands. And every one of the 50,000 is a hot dog vendor, manufacturer, or somebody involved in the hot dog business. Now, they're all yelling and screaming about the benefits and the value of their hot dog, and all you want is a hot dog. That's all. Pretty simple. However, you got all this yelling, screaming, white noise. You can't tell one from the other. All you hear is just bzzz. It just becomes white noise in your head, and it becomes a real source of aggravation. So how long do you think you can handle it? 30 seconds? Maybe if you're really patient, got the patience of Job, you can handle it for a minute. But at some point, your hair's going to be on fire, and you're going to race out of the building yelling and screaming so that you can get to silence, or you can get to less white noise. So you go running out of the stadium, you go into the street, and suddenly down the block comes in front of you a little old man, nice little hat on. He's got an umbrella. He's got a wonderful little hot dog stand. Just standing there, minding his business, listening to a little Sinatra or Martin on the radio. And basically you come across him and he just simply asks you, what would you like? And obviously you tell him you want a hot dog. He says, how many? You tell him 2, and he asks you, what do you want on it? And would you like a drink with that? Bottom line is, this little old man, he got outside the white noise. He had a unique value proposition, nothing fancy, but it was unique. He differentiated himself totally. He was in a relationship-based situation more so than just a transactional process, because chances are you, in that area again, you go back to that same little old man on the corner, and he was relational. He was business relational. Now, he's not in a real client retention arena because he's serving people one by one. However, what you have with us on the Advocacy Network is a unique message. Our unique message is really simple. Have you ever felt the pain, anger, shame, and guilt of being financially victimized? That's a very simple question. Have you ever felt the pain, anger, shame, and guilt of being financially victimized? How many times a day can you ask that question to how many different people who cross your pathway? I mean, it's a question for everybody. There's no select demographic. There's no select education. There's no select income. There's no select homeowner, what kind of car you drive. It's a very simple data mining. It's everybody. Anybody and everybody is a potential victim of financial victimization, scams, fraud, predatory sales tactics. Everyone. So all you got to do is ask this question. Now, whether they say yes or no, you'll find as we go through the rest of a lot of what we do, it does make a difference whether they say yes or no. They're going to be connected in a unique, totally differentiated manner. So that comes in the unique message of financial victimization. We have found also, by the way, and this is a lot of what we do and provide, that one of the major reasons that people become financial victims is due to financial illiteracy. We live in the richest nation in the world, and at the same time, we live in the nation with the highest rate of financial illiteracy. Major disconnect there, quite a conundrum, but true. People at high levels of education, people at high levels of wealth are still financially illiterate. So we provide education in a financial literacy role that has a lot to do in our membership. We provide protection, direct protection against all forms of financial victimization, scams, fraud, and predatory sales tactics. We also provide the education on personal behaviors and the reasons that people ultimately expose themselves to become victimized. And in the end, we want to have a one-on-one relationship as an advocate, and that's where you, the financial concierge, comes in. We want you to develop a strong business relational type of practice. Now, as far as a client base goes, let's look at normal retention is somewhere in the 80% range. 75 to 80% would be normal. So let's just say 80%. That means 20% of your base needs to be replaced come January 1. If you're building a very nice practice and doing a good job, right? If you could turn that to 90-10, you're obviously going to enjoy a 10% growth every single year. If you do 95-5, you're going to enjoy a 15% every year growth. Now, again, in the early stage, when you have very few clients and you're building and you're multiplying, it can happen at much larger rates. But in order for a very strong business entrepreneurial practice to grow at 10 to 15% a year that's been around for a while, that's some really great heavy lifting, and that's pretty wonderful growth. Okay, so in your client base, it lends itself to three things. You've got annual retention of those you already have, you got annual growth of new people coming in, and then you have the service that you offer, meaning how much time can you spend with those you already have and those you're trying to grow in. All right, so you have to build appropriately. Now, I show you on the right a little cartoon. We always talk about this, how people get victimized all the time. But, learn the secret for earning $100,000 a month doing nothing. And we see this all the time, right? So, obviously, I'm not here today touting how you can do nothing and develop a seven-figure practice, okay? I'm sure you've been to some of those webinars that there's a magic silver bullet or some magic bean at the end of the day that's going to, wonderfully, just quadruple and triple and 10 times your business without you lifting a finger. That's not the case here with us, okay? So on this client retention issue, let's take a look at this power of cross-selling and upselling. Now, I know you've heard a lot about it. I'm sure that you've been constantly counseled on cross-selling and upselling, but for some reason, only about 8 to 10% of sales professionals do it. So, and most of them are all in the field we like to refer to as rainmakers. So predominantly, we have rainmaker training ourselves, one of our training modules. So rainmakers differentiate themselves in really just a few different ways. It's not education. It's not who you know. It's not a lot of money. Really, the big difference is they follow up. That's kind of frightening. We'll go over that some other time. But they follow up. They also cross-sell and upsell because they realize the power of retention. Now, 3+ lines of business in a household or in a relationship will equate to 75% of retention over 5 years. So you'll retain that client that you have 3+ lines with for you'll retain them for 5 years. Okay, so 5+ lines you retain 90% over 7 years. So those people you're able to build a relationship, have 5+ lines, you're going to get 90% retention over 7 years. That's a pretty strong platform for your business. Now, with that comes residual income within your client base, your existing client base, and we're going to show you different forms of residual income. Obviously, even transactionally, you build a little residual income, but you build nowhere near the exponential residual income you can build by having a relationship versus a transaction. This comes from thought leadership branding. We'll discuss briefly on that. And that really makes you an authority. It differentiates you. It gets you outside the white noise, all through thought leadership. That comes back to what we discussed earlier, blogging and social media. Well, the best way to promote yourself as a thought leader is to provide a lot of information, a lot of quality service to people right over the expansive areas of social media, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, okay, LinkedIn, all these areas. You can become a thought leader. You can brand yourself, and that will really differentiate you. We also, one of our major training modules, besides Lead the Field, we discussed earlier, one of our major training modules for our financial concierges is Referral of a Lifetime. Tim Templeton's wonderful, wonderful program for how to build a referral-based practice in any business and to basically have 100% referrals. Okay, it's the magic of the 250 and some other things. So for the cross-selling, upselling, let me show you the value of cross-selling and upselling besides retention. Obviously, retention, as we showed you earlier, 80%. If you're just transactional, you're probably going to be 75 to 80% retention. One line of business, but people are going to come, they're going to go, and you're going to every year have to, in order just to break even, you're going to have to grow every year by 20 to 25%. That being said, if you can build a practice where you have 3+ lines of business in there, really strong, good relationships, you are going to have 75% retention over a 5-year period, which is going to mean that every year you don't have a huge amount of heavy lifting to do in order to grow. The best scenario is to have 5+ scenarios in their lines of business with your people, and you're going to retain 90% of that book of business for 7 years, which means that each year, just a small growth pattern of 10 to 15% is going to give you back huge returns. So on the growth side, on the insurance sales side, as you can see, we don't get involved in your insurance sales. I'm not an FMO. I'm not an IMO. I have no financial reward from your insurance sales. I am committed to trying to help you grow. I'm committed to you prospecting better. I'm committed to you selling more product, but we don't gain any financial economic gain from it, okay? So that's pretty much been transactional and with a small amount of residual income coming from that. I'm sure you've been in the business a long, long time. You know that the fact and myth of residual income isn't always what it's cracked up to be, unless you have the cross sells and upsells. Now on the upsell side, franchise, we do franchises. We've got strategic alliances, and through strategic alliances, you have other opportunities to create a lot of relationship-based solutions inside your client relationships. We do franchises and help people understand the tax-advantaged cash flow of having a business. That's one thing. We have gold and silver relationships for strategic alliances so people can protect their future purchasing power. Has nothing to do with investing or speculation, as many people sell it. It's all about future purchasing power. It's an insurance policy as such. It's just protecting assets. We have a huge amount of other strategic alliances we built in order to help you provide a myriad of solutions in order for you to reach that 5+ arrangement with people. So in the upsell, you get better retention and you get revenue growth. Now, the best world is cross-selling and upselling. Not everything is an upsell. A lot of times things are just a crossover into some other little areas that people have a financial need. So what's going to happen with us is through educational workshops, as you see right there, through educational workshops and things we do of that nature, truly educational, we build thought leadership, we build a branding process, but you're going to improve your prospecting platform for people because, once again, your approach to them is kind of simple. You're leading with financial literacy education. You're also asking a simple question. Have you ever felt the pain, anger, shame, and guilt of being financially victimized? And oh, by the way, I'm an advocate who simply protects people, and my role is to take your best interest into concern on everything we do. So your best interest is my only concern. That leads to cross-sell. It positions you as a financial concierge. It puts you in a wonderful relationship-based position. You'll increase your residual income. You'll increase retention. You'll have the strategic alliances, which give you more opportunities to create multiple streams of income. And that's pretty much the model of how we do what we do at the Advocacy Network. Now, in looking at looking at revenue growth, we know that in order for you to grow this way, in order for you to grow your practice in such a manner, you need to be strategically positioned. Well, with us, you are strategically positioned. Again, I'm not an IMO or an FMO, so we're not asking you to make any transfers. We're not an instead of in any scenario. We're an addition to. So I'm not asking you to do anything specifically other than coming through a process with us. Now, that's going to strategically position you as a person who can simply ask anybody, have you ever felt the pain, anger, shame, and guilt of being financially victimized? That's it. That's your lead-in. Based on how many times a day you have that discussion, that'll tell you exactly how deep and wide you can build your client base. So that's really a form of prospecting mastery when it's that simple. It really is that simple. Okay, that's a better sales positioning. You're an advocate. You're not an agent. You're not a broker. You're not a consultant. You're not an advisor, okay? You're not a representative. You are an advocate, a true advocate whose only concern is the best interest of the person who's on the other side of a table or on the other side of a desk or on the other side of a handshake. You are an advocate, truly concerned about their best interest. It'll increase your production and your existing sales, whether that's annuities, life insurance, combination of both, or even if you happen to be a multi-line agent, okay? It's going to create multiple streams of revenue, more sources of revenue to flow in. Sales mastery. We have training and development, lead the field, the referral of a lifetime, Rainmaker University. We have all kinds of opportunities for you to become a truly, truly enhanced sales professional, which will just simply increase your opportunity to earn more money. You're going to have improved client retention through all the means that we discussed earlier. You're going to get increased client acquisition, which is, again, goes back to prospecting mastery. I mean, you have the opportunity to build, 1,000 members or so in a given community. Everyone is exposed to financial victimization. There is nobody, okay? It doesn't make a difference whether rich or poor, tall or short, thin, skinny or heavy. It makes no difference. Everyone's exposed, okay? 10,000 people are turning 65 every day. You're bombarded with this. Everybody and their mother wants you to sell Medicare supplements or Medicare Advantage or lead in with annuities or lead with whatever for these 10,000 people turning 65 a day. Imagine if you're the only one who's speaking to these people turning 65 every day and saying, hey, have you ever felt the pain, anger, shame, and guilt of being financially victimized? Oh, and yeah, and by the way, that's what I do. I'm an advocate, so your best interest is my only concern. I can make sure this never happens to you. And then you got the beginnings of a relationship, and it goes from there. And I mean, over a course of time, you can make numerous sales and solutions within that household based on all their financial needs. Okay, so that is going to drive revenue versus income. There's a big difference between revenue and income. You know, revenue is the top line. That's everything that flows in. Okay, now it goes out into marketing expenses. It goes out into a lot of other things. It goes into salaries if you have some help, if you've got administrative assistance, whatever it is you have. Those are all expenses, come off the top of your revenue, which basically leaves you, comes off the income, which leaves profit. So the bottom line, profit is the most important thing. I mean, I know you've been told that constantly. You probably tell your business clients, even on the business insurance side, when you look over their balance sheets and you look over the spreadsheets, it's all about profit at the end of the day. It's what you get to keep. It's not what you make, it's what you get to keep, not how much you earn. So we know that. Well, in coming towards the end here, I wanted to share something that Jay Abraham had showed me many, many years ago. I had the extreme pleasure of meeting Jay Abraham probably prior to 2000. So it's a long time ago. So it's 1998, 99, somewhere in that ballpark. And Jay Abraham, if you know, those of you who know about him or read anything, very, very busy man, really one of the great marketing gurus. Next to Jay Abraham, probably the next, great, not so much a marketing guru, I don't think, but a copywriter is Dan Kennedy. So, both of them are pretty big gurus in their fields, but Jay Abraham had a very unique way of looking at business and a unique way of establishing upsell, cross-sell, and this exponential growth. And I think it's very important you understand growing exponentially versus growing linearly or, growing by addition. So really, there's only three ways you can grow in business. There truly is. You can grow by increasing your clients. So if you increase the amount of clients you have by 10%, that's new people, that's great. You can increase by the amount of sales you make, okay, to those existing clients, as well as sales on new clients. So that you can grow by 10% in that arena. And the third thing you can do is you can grow by upselling, cross-selling, and getting more sales within your client base, okay? Increasing the type of sale, selling more things, okay? So those are really the three ways you grow. Now, if you look at that and you grew your business 10% in each of those areas, most people would immediately raise their hand and say, wow, I grew my business by 30%. I did 10, 10, and 10. And they'd be wrong, because really, if you did the math, when you do the math on it, if you take out the numbers, you'll find you grew by 33%, because that's three areas. That's an additional 10% within each area. So it's really 33%. And that's the beauty of exponential growth. Okay. If you looked at it the other way, it would be 30% growth. It would really be linear growth or growth by addition. So we want you to be able to grow exponentially and learn the secret to that. It's really not, I wouldn't call it a secret, but for whatever reasons, 85, 90% of most sales professionals are unaware. Let's put it that way. They're just unaware. So your specific practice right now, if it's an agency or it's a business, then more than likely you grow linearly, okay? Agencies don't grow exponentially. And businesses, most of the time when people see themselves as a business owner, unfortunately, they're nothing more than they've exchanged the W-2 world for the 1099 world. And they're still an employee of their own business. So people really need to break away from that. You don't want to become an employee in your own business. You want to become an entrepreneur that is running an enterprise. And as such, you have room for employees. You have room for multiplication of yourself. You have room for other salespeople. You have lots of room to grow. However, it's all done through an entrepreneurial platform. And really what we're trying to share here, between not just our training and development, but our offering for our members and our offering for financial victimization protection, we are building an entrepreneurial platform We want you to have your own enterprise within that enterprise. And that's the reason you can have a seven-figure practice, okay? And that's the reason that you can grow so substantially larger, and it's exponential. So in shaking up this status quo, and unfortunately, sadly, and without sounding negative or trying to make any attacks, the vast majority of insurance agents in the marketplace are stuck in the status quo. They're stuck in the white noise. Everything that they are taught or everything that's brought to them, the next magic silver bullet, the next magic bean, the next new secret marketing concept, all of it is still mirrored in the white noise. Very few operations are differentiating themselves. So for the most part, it's a status quo. So you see that status quo in prospect, present, and do a transaction. Brian Tracy used to say prospect, present, and follow up. Now, we've already learned that only 8% of the rainmakers in any given industry actually follow up. Something like 80% of all sales are made after a fifth contact, and 90% of all salespeople make 3 contacts or less. So therefore, that's why it becomes transactional. There's little to no relationship. There is no building a future. There's not going to be any exponential growth because there is no relationship. Relationships lead to exponential growth. So if we take a look at the financial concierge scenario, here is a very, very strong process, not just simply a linear ABC. This is a process. This is A squared to B squared to C cubed. This is a total exponential process. So you have a unique message. Have you ever felt the pain, anger, shame, and guilt of being financially victimized? I'm an advocate. Your best interest is my only concern. Leads to people becoming members because they want to be protected. Those lead to cross-sell and upsell opportunities, client growth right here. That's client growth, which leads you to a relationship, which gives you the opportunity to take care of more financial difficulties that they have because they trust you in the role of a financial concierge. A financial concierge is somebody who's pointing them in all the right directions for all the financial decisions they may have. And that leads to exponential growth. And the most important aspect of it all is that it's built out of a relationship. Relationships drive exponential growth because relationships lead to a great deal of opportunity to provide more and more and more solutions, not transactional. So I hope that that's been good for you today. And we've made some sense of this. I want you to see here that we can reach out for you at any time. Okay, we can reach out and speak with you anytime. I'm back on the camera here for you, but you can reach me on the screen. You'll see that 321-947-3220. But if you go out to our site, theadvocacynetwork.com, at that site, I'll be able to schedule with you. So I have a nice little scheduling component on the site, and you can see what we do. There's a blog. The blog is at least 3 times a week. We give out a lot of information. We are building a lot of thought leadership. We're moving into the arena where we're going to try to get a bigger and deeper advertising budget. There is some talk about getting on some national television shows to discuss this concept of financial victimization. So there's a lot of opportunity coming in our organization. Now, again, I want to make sure you understand, our organization is nothing like any of the agent-driven organizations, nothing like, National Agents Association, none of these type of things. We're not running any kind of marketing guru events. We're not in this to basically find a magic bean for selling life insurance and annuities. We're in this for developing strong relational practices through a very unique and obvious need, which happens to be that of financial victimization. It's an up-and-coming topic. It's a burning topic. It's a white elephant in the room topic. You'll be totally uniquely differentiated when you're out there speaking to people about this topic. And we want to drive a very big force of financial concierges. We want that to be a great opportunity, an opportunity for you to build a better prospecting base, for you to increase your client base, for you to increase your client retention, and mostly for you to increase your production, but also have multiple streams of opportunities to create a basic exponential residual income. That's a great opportunity. So again, my name is Carl Schilling. I want to thank you so much for your time. You've been very kind today. Your time is incredibly valuable, and I really, really respect that. I would love to talk to you more about how our platform works, what's in it for you, what the benefits are, and what your responsibilities would be in that, okay? So have a great day. Thanks again for your time, and I'm going to be signing us off here, okay?